Allah!
On the night of March 16, 2026, Iranian-backed militia forces launched a coordinated drone and missile attack against the United States Embassy compound in Baghdad, Iraq. Multiple Shahed-136 kamikaze drones were detected flying low over the city, approaching the international zone from the east. The embassy's C-RAM counter-rocket artillery and mortar system opened up immediately. The rotary cannon fired in short, controlled bursts, tracking and intercepting two of the incoming drones mid-air. The third drone was not stopped. It impacted inside the compound, striking near the helipad. Fire broke out on the roof of one of the main buildings. A missile had already hit the helipad hours earlier, destroying part of the air defense array on the perimeter. The compound was under attack, and the defenses had taken damage. Within minutes, the order went out. Combat alert was raised across all United States military assets in the region. Every unit received the signal at the same time. The response was immediate. In the Persian Gulf, the USS Harry S Truman Carrier Strike Group received the alert order and began combat operations. At Asad Air Base in western Iraq, fighter squadrons were brought to immediate readiness. Marine Corps Rapid Reaction Forces were activated at bases across the region. At the embassy compound itself, additional security elements were already moving toward the Green Zone, and across the border in Kuwait, air defense batteries began repositioning toward the Iraqi frontier. Everything was in motion before the fires inside the compound were fully extinguished. At the embassy compound in Baghdad, the C-RAM system was being assessed by maintenance crews. Technicians worked through the damage to the sensor array on the north perimeter, identifying which components had been destroyed and which were still functional. Replacement parts were pulled from the logistics depot on base. A second C-RAM unit was being transported by convoy from Al-Taji military base north of Baghdad, escorted by armored vehicles. The convoy moved through the city at speed, headlights off, using night vision to navigate. The route had been cleared by Iraqi security forces ahead of the convoy's movement. At the landing zone inside the Green Zone, two UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters set down and offloaded additional Marine security personnel. The Marines moved immediately to reinforce the perimeter, taking up positions at the entry control points and along the outer walls. They carried full combat loads, rifles, body armor, night vision, anti-drone equipment. Communications specialists set up additional radio links between the compound and the regional command post at Al-Udeid. On board the USS Harry S. Truman in the Persian Gulf, the flight deck came to life. Deck crews in colored jerseys moved into position. Below in the hangar bay, FAA-8 Seat E Super Hornets were being prepared. Weapons teams attached air-to-ground munitions to the underwing pylons. AGM-65 Maverick missiles were mounted and wired in. Each weapon was connected to the aircraft's electronics, the data link confirmed. The arming pins inserted with red flags hanging from them. The pins stay in until the aircraft is ready to taxi. Fuel crews connected single-point refueling nozzles to each aircraft. The gauges were monitored until the tanks read full. The hoses were disconnected and the caps sealed. One by one, the fighters were brought up on the aircraft elevators to the flight deck. Deck crews guided each jet into launch position on the catapults. Wings were unfolded and locked. Launch bars attached. Jet blast deflectors rose behind the engines. The first A-18 Super Hornet was on the catapult. The pilot ran the engines to full power. The catapult officer gave the signal. The holdback released, and the aircraft shot forward off the bow, dropping slightly before climbing hard into the night sky. Seconds later, the next fighter launched, then another. One after another, they were thrown off the deck and turned toward Iraq. At Asad Air Base in western Iraq, additional FA-18s were being prepared on the flight line. Ground crew worked under floodlights. Avionics were checked, radar systems tested, wiring and electronics inspected panel by panel. Missiles were loaded onto the pylons, engine covers removed, intakes inspected. Every aircraft was pushed through its full pre-mission check without shortcuts. In the operation center at Al-Assad, targeting teams were working through intelligence packages on the militia compound east of Fallujah that had been identified as the launch site for the drone attack. Coordinates were verified against multiple intelligence sources' signals: INO's intelligence, aerial surveillance footage, human intelligence from assets on the ground in the area. The target package was prepared and assigned to the strike aircraft. Every pilot in the strike formation knew exactly where they were going and what they were hitting. By 3:00 local time, the picture was complete. A-18s from the Truman were already established in a combat air patrol orbit over Baghdad, flying a racetrack pattern at altitude above the green zone, their radar systems scanning the airspace in every direction. Any drone or aircraft that entered the protected zone would be detected and engaged within seconds. The embassy compound below was now covered from the air. At Al-Assad, the strike package was ready. 4 A-18s loaded with precision-guided munitions, 1 EA-18G Growler for electronic warfare support, and 2 FA-18s configured for escort. The formation was assembled on the runway threshold waiting for clearance. The target was the militia compound east of Fallujah. Distance from Al-Assad 47 miles. Flight time under 6 minutes at combat speed. The clearance came through. The militia compound east of Fallujah took 4 direct hits from precision-guided munitions. The strike was over in under 2 minutes. The FA-18s climbed out and turned back toward Al-Assad. Above Baghdad, the combat air patrol continued its orbit without interruption. The CRAM replacement unit arrived at the embassy compound before first light and was brought online before sunrise. But the militia network that had launched the attack was not limited to one compound. There were other sites, other launch positions, other cells that had not yet been struck. The air patrol over Baghdad would not be standing down. The strike aircraft at Al-Assad were already being rear-made. The Truman's flight deck was still running. The operation was not over. It had only just started.